Good morning and welcome to Marrakech. For the next couple of nights we're going to be staying in a beautiful riad here in the Medina of the city. And not only is it really beautifully decorated, but the whole history behind the architecture of the riads is fascinating, so I can't wait to take you around with me. The first part of the riad that I want to share is our room, in part because we've just checked in and our luggage for once hasn't completely exploded yet. When you first come into the room, you're greeted with a lovely little seating area, almost like a living room with a couple of chairs and a sofa. Both the woodwork and also the patterns and the material are typically what you'd expect from Morocco, and it sits on a really lovely rug. And based on what we've learned from having gone into a few rug shops here in Marrakech, this one underfoot definitely feels like it's a sheepskin rug, and you can tell that it's been woven on a loom because at the top end you don't have the tassels, but at the bottom end of the rug you do have the tassels. You've got a couple of columns creating a traditionally Moroccan archway through to the bedroom area, and we've also got a little wardrobe off to the side. Traditionally, riads didn't have bathrooms inside of them. They might have had a toilet downstairs and a sink either just inside or outside, but people historically would have gone off to the local hammams to be able to wash their bodies. But naturally, with tourists flocking to these areas, they want to be able to experience the traditional riads, but with the upgrades of a private bathroom within the hotel rooms, and this riad is no different. The bathroom is beautifully decorated. You're first welcomed into the sink area where you've got a really beautifully painted sink. You've also got the Moroccan tiles around the outside of it, which is what's known as zellige. Off to the left hand side of the sink, you've then got the shower area. There isn't anything in here to provide any kind of privacy, but what we have picked up on is that the windows out onto the balcony area where other guests staying in the riad will be able to walk past, you've got these gorgeously carved wooden shutters to give that level of privacy. And then off to the right hand side of the sink is then the toilet area, which when we first checked in, we were saying that with this being the only thing allowing you to step out of the bedroom and into the bathroom, we thought, well, that's not very private, until I actually came in here and I've realised that there is actually a curtain for privacy, which is great. I also love how ornate the mirror is and the lights that are around it, and it's just exactly what you expect from Morocco. Outside of the room is then the terrace that I talked about, so anyone who's staying in the riad as a guest would be able to come and sit here enjoying something like a Moroccan mint tea or potentially a cigarette, which we're hoping isn't going to be the case given that our room is just there, but if that is the case we'll just make sure that we close the shutters. One of the things that I did really appreciate about this riad is that they don't allow smoking in the rooms, even though in Morocco it is legal to still smoke indoors. In Arabic, the word riad means garden, and a traditional riad is usually built with 4 walls around a central garden area. On the ground floor, traditionally, you would have a couple of salons that face one another. Whilst we do have a salon that is your traditional size, very long, very narrow, and with very tall ceilings, we don't seem to have a salon on the other side. And my guess is that when this was converted into tourist guest house accommodation, they probably felt like it would be a little bit more appealing to us tourists if there was a dip pool instead of a salon on the other side. The one thing about the salon that does still exist is that it's got an incredibly intricate ceiling, and right in the far corner there's also a fireplace, which I would expect that in those winter months when it can get quite chilly around here, it's a nice place for the family to gather around to warm up. This particular riad can sleep up to 20 guests, and each of the doors are these really nicely carved ones. And in order to be able to lock up the rooms, they provided us with these padlocks. And traditionally, these were family homes, so you wouldn't have been expected to lock up bedrooms within your own home. These ceilings are beautifully ornate, where not only have you got the carved wood, but you've also got the paintings, and then you've got these lights hanging from them that again are just exactly what you would expect to see here in Morocco. One of the typical features of a Moroccan riad is the open roof concept that sits above the garden. This allows for fresh air, sunlight, even birds to come in, and on the odd occasion when it does rain here, the rains allow for trees and other plants that grow in the gardens to be able to soak up that water. In our particular riad, we've also got this huge, stunning chandelier that's hanging from the rooftop, and they've also put some linens across the top just to help provide a little bit of shade for us in these warmer times. One of the reasons why these riads has the inner courtyard, it's not like in Western society where our homes look out into the public realm, where if someone was to look into the window, they'd be able to see us inside of our homes. This is completely private. For the touristy riads, the rooftop terraces are now used as a place to be able to come, socialise, and we'll be having breakfast up here each morning. But traditionally, this was the space for the women. They would come up here to do things like washing clothes, drying clothes, maybe even drying out some of the foods if they were the types that needed that treatment. Therefore, the walls on the rooftop terraces built up really, really high, giving privacy from the outer world. In the heat of the summer, when it was just too hot to be able to sleep in the bedrooms downstairs, the family might also come up to the rooftop terrace to be able to sleep. For us, we've been provided with a beautiful garden up at the top here too. We've got things like the fountains with the exquisite zellige, we've got sun lounges if we wanted to do a little bit of sunbathing up here, and again just in line with that privacy, the people in the riads on either side wouldn't be able to see us sunbathing up here. And then what's really nice is knowing that historically people would hang out their washing to dry up here. The workers of the riad have kept with that tradition, and you can see the towels for the guests have been hung up here in the sunlight. I understand that newer riads and potentially riads that have been built specifically for the tourism market don't have the really high up walls, so they give much better panoramic views of the cities. But for the mosques that have got really tall minarets, we can still see those out in the distance, and there's a few dotted around. Another big giveaway that this is a very old riad that's been converted and updated for the tourism market is that from street level to get into the riad, you've got to step down. And my understanding is that if you come in directly at street level, it's a much newer riad because you've got all of the pipe work for the plumbing and the hot water, whereas they've obviously had to be very creative with how they've been able to do that conversion within the one that we're staying in. And another thing that I picked up on is that a couple of the bedrooms that they obviously rent out as hotel rooms have got windows that look directly into the courtyard but on higher floors. And traditionally, if a man was to come into the family home but someone who was a stranger, the woman would often go up to one of those rooms and she could just peek through the window to be able to see what was going on, but in a way whereby the man wouldn't be able to see her. If you're planning a trip to Morocco, and particularly Marrakech, and you're thinking about where you might want to stay, I hand on heart would recommend checking yourself into a riad such as this one. If you are interested in this particular one, I will leave a link to the booking.com link in the comment section below, because that's who we booked through. We were here 5 years ago and we stayed in this exact riad and we were blown away so much by it. We've come back for another couple of nights. But I think in comparison to any kind of hotel, even if it's like a family-run hotel, it just has such a different feeling to the Riads. And I think when you throw in the historical value of what the Riad gives you, you're not having to pay any money in order to have admission into one to look around it. You're actually getting to live and sleep and eat here. I would highly recommend a stay in a Riad.